Today, I'm going to tell you a story. This is a story of blistering speed and a fierce rivalry. We have two players that we're working with today. First, the legendary automotive company, Ferrari, known for producing screaming loud engines that will go faster than you can blink. Next, we have what was known as commuter car. You drive it to work, you drive it back. It's kind of slow, doesn't have that great of mileage, and it's not that fun. This company was Ford, and how the heck does a commuter car company and a race car company even compete? Well, through an interesting turn of events, we see that this commuter car company had a fierce rivalry going on with Ferrari, and they were really clashing heads at the race of Le Mans. This is a historic race and a powerful underdog story, and I'd like to take you through it right now. We're going to look at 3 different areas to kind of learn a bit about it and see some more stuff about this race. First, we'll look at the history of the Le Mans track and why it's so significant to the automotive world. Next, we'll go ahead and look at the business side of things, the budding rivalry between Ford and Ferrari. And last, we'll discuss what happened on that fateful day on the track and how that influenced the future of automotive racing. First though, we need to learn about the history of this race. And it is quite the packed race. In fact, many people, including highconsumption.com, consider it to be the most important race in the entire automotive world. This article goes on to say that it was made in Western France, and it was initially made in 1923 just for kind of testing out cars, making sure they run well. It's about a 10.4 mile loop that just goes around. It's pretty fun and not really that long. A skilled driver could complete it in 2-ish minutes. However though, this evolved to be significantly more than we might expect. This race became so significant to the automotive world because instead of just going around that loop once or twice or a defined amount of times, racers would go around it for 24 straight hours. Same vehicle, they couldn't replace anything in the engine. They had to drive that same dang vehicle around that loop over and over and over again for an entire day and night. Now, this is a huge race. Originally, it was just to test out vehicles' endurance. But as the automotive world evolved, we started to see, hey, there's a lot of potential in a super long endurance, ultra-marathon, as this article said, type of race. And that was true. It became the testing ground for new vehicles, new companies, and it was where the world looked. Not just those in France, but everyone across the world would watch this race in awe to see the fastest car that could last for 24 hours. And there's some unique strategies they would use on this race because, again, it's a 24-hour race, not a 15-minute one. So this race has a clear part in the history of the automotive world. Next, though, we'll talk about the rivalry between Ford and Ferrari and how it even started. So we're going to have to go back first. Ford was failing. As we discussed at first, they're just a little commuter car company. You buy a Ford because you have to buy a Ford, not because you want a Ford. So in a stressful board meeting, the executives came up with one thing. Let's make Ford fast. And that's what they wanted to do. So they had discussions with an Italian supercar company that was kind of struggling financially. And this company was, believe it or not, Ferrari. Ferrari was initially pretty happy about the negotiations. They would go back and forth on what they wanted, but it seemed like it would all work out quite well. However, Enzo Ferrari used some spirited insults and said that Henry Ford was a shame to his company. One thing about Henry is that he is one son of a narcissist, so he did not quite enjoy that. So with the help of Carroll Shelby, a legendary automotive designer, and Ken Miles, an incredible spirited racer, Ford was able to assemble their latest creation, the Ford GT40. It was using an American V8 engine, and it was pushing out some serious power, setting records at every single race it did before Le Mans. So clearly, this was a successful vehicle. They got an underdog company, and then the best supercar designer, as many would say, in the entire world, and one of the best drivers in the world. And they assembled the dream team. They assembled a team where even an underdog like Ford could take on the ferocious Ferrari and somewhat stand a chance. It's race day. And this race started off with quite the bang. Now, to start, the Ford GT40 with Ken Miles in it gets going off pretty dang quick, and then it goes behind everyone. And there's a rattling sound. And there's wind getting in the cabin. What the? Why is this, you might ask? Well, it's because they couldn't get the door to close. It's such a weird problem to have on a $1 million car, is that you can't get the door to latch. So he made his way around the loop once, and they got a sledgehammer and slammed that door shut. It works pretty well, and the Ford GT40, along with Ken Miles' amazing driving, was able to pull up, get somewhat close to Ferrari, and they passed the Ferrari doing a donut. Ferrari had messed up, and they had messed up big, because their driver had made a critical mistake where they lost traction, and they slid and they spun around, and Ferrari lost it. So Ford was able to actually pull ahead, and thanks to Ken Miles' driving, although he started with a huge disadvantage, he quickly regained it. And not only did he regain it, he got around 10 minutes ahead of any other driver, which in the world of racing is unthinkable. And then we have the executives of Ford, who are obviously thrilled that they are going to win at Le Mans, because Ken Miles managed to pull ahead. So one of them, though, said, "Hey, why don't you slow down a bit?" Slow down? It's a race. Yeah, we're thinking the same thing. It's a race, and there's no reason to slow down. But in their mind, they wanted to have a 1 first, 2 second, and 3 third place finish of all of their Ford GT40s that they'd entered in the race. Ken Miles, being a team player, decided that although he hated it, he would slow down, make sure while he's still in first, he would be able to take the win with his teammates. And as they had predicted, there was a first, second, and third finish of Ford GTs. So, who won? Ford, obviously. They were robbed. They were robbed by McLaren on a technicality. Since the McLaren vehicle started a little bit back behind the finish line, they were able to argue that they had gone farther and thus won the race. And that ended up being accepted as rule. But there's still good news. Ford did manage to beat Ferrari, and they managed to make the GT40 an unbeatable racing machine that would dominate in the years to come. This has been a historic race. What happened on that track has defined automotive racing for decades to come. We've analyzed the 3 different areas to really understand this race. First, the history of it and why it matters. Next, we looked at the business behind it and the rivalry that was building up. And last, we looked at what happened on that race and how that changed the automotive world. Now, if there's one thing I can leave you with, is that even in an area like racing, there's still a lot of valuable lessons about the power of an underdog who's not willing to give up. Thank you.